Hey, live. I love you all. Bob Hartley. Roses are red, violets are blue. We're going to soar in this time. Boy, that's true. How do you do? So, read you, and the second part I just did, I would encourage people to listen to it. Sometimes when I get my emotions into it, I go from wanting to share for 15 minutes to 45. So I'm going to be careful this time because the clarity and the pithiness is important. So this was a time, okay, this is a word. And there's more parts to it, but this is just what I'm going to share, and then we're going to crown hope reformers and men and women that I'm really touched by, and just would encourage you if you can link them to it. And if you got comments, please comment. I'm going to put some on the screen if I can so much learn to do that. And Jacqueline, I love you. You help me stay on track. Jacqueline will do that. Sometimes you're too full. So the central commander, as I said, came and said there's a war over the nature of compassion. 1 Corinthians 13:7, love. It was an invitation to have a love that hopes all things. When you have a love that hopes all things, then there's not a need for love and forgiveness. Forgiveness. Love means it means appreciation, which means put value on an object. See, like the worth of an object is the price paid for it. And Jesus paid his life for us. So how much appreciation or how much love? So to stay in the appreciation room will renew our minds and will give us a perspective. Like he said, proclaim his love in the morning, his faithfulness, our appreciation. And there's just a mind filled with that gratefulness and seeing all things as a gift. And people especially will help our original design come forth. And we'll name the nations and the cities and animals, and like Adam did, according to how God sees them. And when you speak what God speaks, it's the original design. That gives you the authority to speak in the waters above the heaven that go all across the earth. And so I'd love to give examples of that. But everybody has a voice, everybody has a cry, and everybody has a song, and everybody has a dream, everybody has a word. And so it's a word of life. And everybody's got their unique flavor of hope. And you all have a seat around the table. And this is very important. Find yourself in this word because you're part of the symphony. So, very important part. So he said, epic war over compassion in the nature of my voice. He says, don't prophesy a problem without a hope solution. And he said, there's always a solution in me. And he gave me just examples of the solutions that I'm talking about each week that are real to the earth, and tools of love and wisdom and of laughter and joy that he just surprised me with. So I'd love you to see the creative ways that he has to win. Just us sharing as the months go by here. This year is very, very specific to developing this 1 Corinthians 13:7 kind of hope, because that love never fails. So he says that there'll be a war over compassion. The enemy wants to come and turn our fissures into fractures. But God has visitations and he has advanced tools in the spirit. But the Leviathan, the spirit that tries to bite your emotions and cause you to see through a filter of hate versus a filter of love, and it's got the spirit of negation and rejection on it. And it's one of the things that I said I'm going to confess about, where I never been like this, where I just say I'm done with somebody, and just to treat them like nothings was not the antidote. And there is an antidote. So he spoke this word that he would come and he he had this platter the Lord did when the cloud came over the earth in 2019, and they can identify it came 4 or 5 ways to snuff out love, and it's not going to do it, but we get the opportunity to turn the antidote, which is sweet stick. There's a new encounter pathway in prayer, and there's some other specific things that sound abstract but are very specific in nature. So we won't get into that right now, but just think about the sweet stick that turned the bitter waters into sweet. And the example that I gave with a man at the airport. So the Lord spoke about the antidote, and at this time, about the Ukraine, Russia, the United States, the other nations, he just exploded and with the joy. And he said, the second Jesus movement with wisdom and unshakable hope is starting. And so around the end of November, a friend of mine, and I want to honor him and say his name if he wants me to, but he told me about a strong geographical shift where the boundary lines were shifting, and he knew war was coming. And I had this visit about the war being over compassion, love, and seeing some awesome solutions in him. And so he said the war was going to mark the beginning of 2022, and foremost was Russia involved. And I synced up. Sometimes you have handoffs with words. There's counsel, and you got the same spirit, and you got the next sentence. And so I said, however, it was to be overcome with the true seeing and loving of Jesus as our partner. And we can co-labor with him, and that he would give us ears to hear. So he said, I saw China watching and waiting. And he got this a while back, and so it's very timely. And he said their interest in South China Sea and the Pacific is directly positioned to counter the U.S. influence, and Hawaii being the border of the Pacific for the U.S. But I had that there'd be China, Christ for China, and China for Christ. And I went to the biggest church there after that, underground church, and there were just dramatic love happened. And I just saw the seed in people, and it was beautiful. And so my friend was holding out for total peace, saddened by the potential suffering. And I had that, but I was filled with also, we suffer with hope, and that's a different tenderness and care for people. But there's a hope of his appearing I had that was magnificent. And there is a vulnerability that comes over people. They either rage or repent, which just means turn to God. And so the body of the lovers of Christ, we would see who were, this was a mix of both of us, I believe, but we would see, we'd be surprised who was included, who would be awakened. This was a while back, and I had written, and I'm going to say it, Jordan Peterson, and there's Magnus Carlsen, and there's others that I've had communication with or through others. And, I want to honor YouTube because they naming names was, or Facebook, I think it was, to be careful. But this is just saying what's been declared by them in their alliance. I don't know how much Magnus has said, but Mott, who's in the British Parliament, and there's others that are going to surprise us with their love for Christ. They're not going to have been in the church, and the church can be awesome, wonderful, and I think that there's growth to happen, but a lot of lovers of Christ there, and the lovers of Christ would be awakened by Jesus' eyes, we get to see him in a healed and expanded view of him. I've gone through 3 chamber doors of intimacy with him, and these chamber doors have changed my life. It just set me in a place where I saw him as the lover of my soul, and then I saw him as God, the God of all of life. The third one, I've seen him in the most powerful way, the authentic Christ, and my authentic original design. Authenticity is, when we get up there, Bob Jones had said to me, who I love, who I honor even this time in this communication, because I got to share some of it with him before he passed, is he asked me to share with him what I was hearing the last year of his life, and I would do that. I had been with him 17 years, but usually I'd defer and listen to him because he had a lot I wanted to learn from. But the last year he said, share, so this is one thing, share. A healed and expanded view of God is the seeing of him in his original design, seeing him, and it's just seeing his real nature and his real ways, that you know that you know that you know him. It's what Mike Bickle said when I had the 5 years after the divorce where people were questioning things. And he said, I know Hartley. And he said, 30 years I've known him. He's the real deal. He had a great heart. And these 2 national leaders had come in and said, what do you think? And he said, I would not believe any of it unless it comes from his mouth. So the 2 leaders walk out, and he looks at me and said, did you do that? I said, no, man, I didn't do that. It's funny. So, staying on subject. So the nations that invite him in are blessed, Psalms 33, and watch it happen. And watch you being sent to different people. And it can happen from your bed. When I was not feeling good and I had my open heart surgery, a man called me. I said, how many people do you minister? 50 million. And others, and I was able to share messages where they took the love that awakens. And there's a lot of ways that you can be such an instrument of him. You can touch the one that touches many. And we're not to fear in this word he spoke. He said, but align our interests with him. And there was a leader in our nation who I've communicated with and sent him prayers, and they just said there's 3 shifts. They have to be patriarchal. That means you got to love the world. And this individual said, I do. And I said, no, you hate a lot of the world. You have no regard for them. And that's apathy, that's hate. The definition is when you just pass by human beings and you don't feel anything for them. That's not normal. And God wants to awaken love. And so I said, that's all hate is. It's apathy. It's not vehement anger that you want to destroy him. It's just, you saw hate as birthright because he had no regard for it. So, and I said to this leader, you got to be inclusive versus exclusive, that the sweet Syrians will come here, and there'll be some that are just sweet Syrians, the useful Ukrainians that are just so full of giving could come here. And I said, you just can't have a wholesale policy on people. Foreigners always help settle the land. But, I've been allowed by the grace of God to speak to different leaders at time, and they invited it in. And so there was some real good things. But my point is that we have I'm speaking in veiled speech, that there are things that our leaders have to be wise in, and wisdom is the heart of God through the ways of God. So, and they can be awesome, but they can take shortcuts on love. And we want to be patient with love. It's first thing. We want to hope all thing. And then he gives us the ability to be firm, but there's qualifications in love for leaders. That's something that we have to really take into consideration. That's not to judge. It's just, there's a second Jesus movement is at hand. We get to surrender and love all to him until we become unshakable by seeing his eyes of the God of appreciation and authority versus criticism. The God who respects the original design of each human being. and they're perfect now. I had an experience with heaven, and everybody looked fat thighs, uh, just rough speech, not mean, but just way. I said, these people are perfect. And he said, well, you thought everybody's going to be Barbie and Ken dolls. He said, they're perfect now. It's your eyes aren't able to see their perfection, their original design. And it bore me to have everybody, it just blew me away. And every day was everybody's day. It's Uncle Louie's day. I said, well, what Father's Day? You got it about 10 times. He said, no, it's every day's Father's Day. Every day's Mother's Day. It was astounding. And I'm just saying, the second Jesus movement is at hand, where he opens up the beauty of him, and he opens up the original design of human beings, and we'll fall in love with them. And we'll see him, if there's 1 ounce, it's like in the shack. I shared with some of those guys, the human beings are like lights. And if they have soft blue light or yellow light, it's so beautiful to see people and what the light unveils about who they are and their warmth. They can have some dark stuff, but they got one light showing through them, and that's what you see, the brightness. And that's what we're required, or we're invited to see. We see the original design of each human being. Just think about this in war. When we see this creates fear and appreciation for each human being, and it never touch them wrongly, because it's like the people that fell in front of Paul, and they saw this original design, and they want to worship. There will be the ability to see each other and will adore each other in the original design. And that's what saved my life, was when people saw my original design. My dad, when I was on drugs, said, Bobby, you're going to be quite a man. You're going to change a lot of lives. You got the biggest heart. And it wasn't just statements. It was, he walked down the hallway in my house 7 years and saw what I'd become, and came back and told me. The God who respects the original design looks for redemption. This will create this honor. This culture of honor is the real deal. And this will be where not that ham spirit. And I just say about war in this situation is to kill a human being, to kill a spirit. This has got great gravity to it. Is there other ways? And just war to destroy a human being, I don't see it as his heart and his ways. I believe that there's more powerful ways in love and redemption and restoration. As the shepherd said, peace of the earth, goodwill to all men. So this can be one of the earth's finest hours that sticks, with the hope that, I love that hope's all things, that Jesus reflects and Jesus is. No, my friend spoke this, that God uses the hearts of kings, he turns like channels of rivers. And it's to redeem and restore. Like Putin or others, we might seem as too far gone, but the redemption and restoration of God, we have to ask him how he sees this situation. And there's Psalms 2 orchestration that's coming on, where he's not laughing like degrading. He's just laughing in this joy and this celebration of the many that will change. And we're believing that God's ability to lead in his love is bigger than the devil's ability to deceive. It's shallow. It might really grab people with fast, hard power of hate, but then it's over. Says the mature one, the seasoned one, the composed one that knows God and his confidence in his love, they draw great allies and they win. So in Ecclesiastes, I saw Putin getting touched by an Abigail. There are going to be women like Abigail in 2 Samuel 25, that she came and David was about to kill her husband Nabal, and he would have died on a petty mountain, and so she just stated that, hey, this is not the nature of you as a king. I know this, and not your ways. And then she gives David the bigger picture of his future and his hope, and she speaks kindly to him and gives him an alternate plan with her husband. And it's profound wisdom, saves David from the anger of man, and as one that was going to be the king, it would have shipwrecked that. So there are Abigails, women that will be sent with the heart of the Lord, that have seen his eyes and heard his ways, and they will change the course of nations. They will do this. They'll have the best view of town and in town in him. There'll be no question they can't answer in him. These hope ambassadors have been risen up with a better siren song, as they named it the last one, other hope ambassadors. Friend said that there's a Western alliance that globalists are trying to control, and this is just important, but there's mercy and justice. God sees it, and there's the God of mercy, and in his eyes, I have seen just how I can get the heart of some of these ones. So our God of wisdom, in one way, is checking and restraining the influence and agenda of some of these, and he knows how to retard their influence. I would ask you to study, like Isaiah 35, a number of places where it looks like evil was winning, and God knew exactly what was happening. And he said, I dried up the water in front of them. I did these different things so that they get weakened. And there is profound wisdom. And then 185,000 of them were taken out, And so God's got the authority to do that. When we talk about a deep state takedown or something like that, God takes the ones that have chosen cruelty and power this way, and there's a presence that draws all men. And I've seen men and women that have decided for evil in Zimbabwe, in South Africa during apartheid, and I saw them touched in Soweto and moved, leaders of nations in a little township, little shanty. So it's got more authority. We're not fighting with pom-poms, but his all-consuming, fiery, hot love, and he has the most powerful spiritual tools to deliver us from evil. The enemy is trying to work through us and say, we don't have the authority that we have. It's trying to work on us. Jesus is King, works in mysterious ways, which I've seen beauty in this coming, and so not boring. He's bored sometimes with all this, and he's got such creative ways of love to bring the solutions. It's time to crown the ones who are the hope reformers, who will turn the tide of the earth towards a clear heavenly atmosphere. So there's this ascended place that we always live in, raptured all the time. We experience rapture every day. That's our gift. So they'll all have a glorious opportunity to see him as king and best friend. And I'm going to name some. I get a sense of us possibly feeding evil with too many conspiracy theory. I'm talking about Mars Hill, where we just go over things and it gets you ramped up. And I've had that prophetic where it loses its relational side, and it's not it goes revelatory, and we leave that porch swing with him, communing with our best friend, asking questions of his heart and the solutions in love. And he's saying, First Philippians 17, 1, 17, and 18, which says, don't be alarmed by your opponent, means destruction to him, but just fix your eyes on him and his ways, and let him be magnified. And it's there for you to see. Don't miss the opportunity. Don't miss it. Don't miss your day of love. Don't miss the time of love. Don't miss the invitation that he has, and you won't. You won't. Focusing on the bigger than God, his invitation. Again, move little men's actions. They won't stand up to the movement of his love and him as a God of reconciliation. It's not healthy, all the Mars Hill stuff. And some are called to interpret the signs of the times uniquely, but I'll see ones that are just repeating things, and it's not good for them. And I want to encourage ones to consider. And we don't want to live on Mars Hill, Acts 18, but we want to see what Jesus is doing in the hearts of men and women. Jesus is battling foes, but even more, he's raising up those 1 Corinthians 13:7 lovers that hope all things, have the greatest of love. Jim Gall read this, and I've also got some private words, and just said, look, this is the major part of the authentic culture of honor coming forth, and said some other things. And we're being moved by Jesus, and God is raising George Washington's different ones, and that's what I'll do with part 4. So that was the word of the Lord. Love you. I'm asking Jacqueline to sum it up, and Linda, and make it make sense for everybody. Blake, and I love you guys. Okay, God bless you. That was 26 minutes. It was right on the nose. Spread it everywhere, like it, comment on it. That way, just not trying to spread. I had to believe in the word. That's why. So tell whoever knows this one, Tony does, send to Tony Kim about the persons whose birthday was August 23rd, that they are a hope reformer that has a very important place in this. Tell the one that was to build hope communities, but criticism of the past towards her made her feel defensive in the present. And her name is Deborah. She used to be like a Deborah, Debbie. And her last name is mine, first name. So that's enough, because she's got a heart for this nation, and God sees it and really sees her making a difference. There's a few I've got to speak to at this point, because there's a way that, Tony, you're going to get to the generals, and we're going to have gatherings at my home, and I got Bob Jones said, you continue to do what he did in his living room and do it with hope. And so I got a piano, and I got a guitar. I set it up for the gatherings that will have different ones come in and be able to help with the blueprint for their lives. And it'd be so exciting. But the ones that came through your past, your place in the past, weren't to settle. They weren't settlers. They were pioneers, and you were to get a message to them and then graduate them. And there was a reason why God didn't want to multiply the house at that time, because there are many different purposes for. So you got a large gift, but it's just, Ben and Julie needed your special attention. And I don't remember Ben and Julie at your place, but just if you honor what you deposited in them, and then ask for, all of us as leaders, sometimes when people have left and we don't know how to enter very well with people or exit very well, and in the United States is just not graduations, and so you're going to leave that example where you salute them and graduate them, because they're healing, restoring reformers. Those two. Their last name is a cane sugar. So I'm gonna tell you that in Bakersfield, California. It's going to be JP by the lake. And it's the lake of love that's 32 levels deep. You're to have him listen and be able to find himself in these words, and just require out of him a little more, because he's, I know he's a big business person, but he's a learner here, and he knows a lot, but just he's a humble man, and God wants to have this a year as an institute of higher learning, so he can be a diplomat in some of these places. Like Bob Jones said to me, look, you know how to come in before 1,000, 10,000, but not a nation. And I learned some lessons, because I went in and, punched the kings in the face by disagreeing with them, and it was unnecessary. There's a language you used. And so learned a lot. And now I just think you raised up some hope reformers, and you got to touch that seat again, Jessica, and then your children. LEHORNORNDA, who lived with you. It's the second pilot light's about to be lit. And this one's a hope reformer that will help people advance in their identities. And it's not about black, white, it's their original design. And it's going to be awesome. Loft and lifts. So to some of you listening, this sounds like veiled terms, but it's very important tonight that these ones get the word to them. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to continue, and I won't be so abstract and just calling forth the hope reformers and their tools. Love you guys. Give me some feedback if you were able to follow it, and just let me know. So, it's always what you don't say. I had some interesting visits just with, there's more, and I just want to be sensitive to when. Okay, love you so much. Okay, good night.